Hey everyone, how's it going? So, welcome to part 2 of the Attack on Titan Rerun collab. So, today, I think today's going to be a bit longer stream, honestly. Because I do have a bit more planned for today, because it's part 2, and this is the final week of the collab. So I also want to do a conclusion and everything. That's why I put conclusion in the title, because I thought it would make more sense to put conclusion in the title since I want to talk more about this whole collab and everything. I will still be doing summons, but I don't plan to do many, but we'll have to see how that goes a bit later. I want to obviously do all the normal stuff, talk about the new unit and the new arc and everything, which we'll do in a second, and briefly talk over any updates in this part 2 update, but honestly, there isn't that much added in the part 2 update. I did have a look, and for this collab event, there isn't a whole lot that they've added. They did have a time trial and stuff, which I want to have a look at quickly a bit later on, but that's not the main focus of the stream. Mostly going to be looking at the part 1 and part 2 units and everything, and talking about their overall performance and everything like that. So that's pretty much everything I want to say for the moment. So let's start getting into the part 2 stuff. So let's have a look at Gacha first. We have Shift Levi. Now, I was more excited about this unit because I thought it would be a pretty great PvE focused unit, and he is, but there's a big but with this one, and that is he's just a very weird unit. He's got a lot of complicated skills, so I can already think that this is going to take way longer to understand and talk about this unit, because a lot of people may look at his kit and just be confused or overwhelmed with information because there's way too much to talk about him. He's got a lot of skills, but let's have a look. I was originally excited about him, but now I kind of in the middle. I'm not super excited really, but let's see. So he is a soldier type. He's going to be a dark physical DPS unit. Absolute resistances are pretty good, but he does have minus 32 light, which makes sense because he is a dark unit. Element resistances, weakness to illness isn't really going to matter too much because he's not a tank or anything. He's not going to be tanking any damage. He's just going to be a DPS unit. So, as a DPS unit, doesn't really matter that they are weak to illness. Having nil to curse and resistance to stun is very useful. Stats isn't really too much to say about stats, but high HP and strength is pretty nice to see. Defense and mind are okay, but doesn't really matter too much. He doesn't have a lot in his kit to help with survivability. Now, skills, I did make a few notes the other day about his skills, because he does have true dual wield, so his hit counts will be a bit higher and everything. Well, he's another dual wield type unit. Shift Mikasa was also a dual wield unit. They are both dual wield units, but Shift Levi has true dual wield, which only affects specials. It's the same as dual wield, but the bonus effect is affecting specials as well. So skill 1, 2, and 3, very similar to like Shift Mikasa or base Levi is probably compared to, because there's a lot of words for just doing a very simple skill. So skill 1 is I don't really need to say it, but it's a dark attack. Pull in one enemy, so it probably pulls in one enemy, which sounds okay. Move the unit if unpullable. I can see that being useful in some cases. Like, you want the enemy to come close to you, it's like, get over here, I want you in my face, I'm going to kill you now. Right, so skill 1 is 7 hits, so with dual wield that's going to be 14, which I think's okay. It's not really a whole lot. Skill 1 never really has a lot of hits, but 7's kind of average, I think. 6 is usually below average. Skill 2, shoot a wire that pulls unit to enemy, so another pull kind of skill, which is nice. It is better than it's not just a super basic skill, but it's still, at the end of the day, just a basic skill. Medium area dark combat attack. So this skill 2 does look a bit similar to his original form skill 2, which wasn't his best skill, but it looks a bit faster at least. It's 14 hits, which I think's okay, and 24 is going to be, well, 28 is going to be dual wield, which you're pretty much always going to be running him dual wield. There's no way you would want to use him single wield at all. So dual wield hits 28 is pretty nice. And then skill 3 I think is good, but it could have been faster. Like original Levi, his skill 3 was his best DPS skill and was probably the best DPS when he released at the time, but I don't know how this will perform. I think it will be pretty solid. It's another shoot the wire that pulls units enemy for a wide area of dark combo attack, so it's got a wider area. It is kind of like a Beyblade skill 3 like his original form. I like it. It's got cool animation, but it's not the best skill in the game, but it's still pretty solid. It's got 22 hits, so dual wield will be 44, which is okay. It's nothing crazy. Could have been higher hits, I think. So then that leaves his special, which I think his specials could be decent because he's got true dual wield. So dark combo attack to all enemies, which is great. I like specials that have AoE damage. They are just a lot better than single wield damage, well, single target damage. Followed by a powerful dark combo attack to one target. So I made a few notes on this special. So this special is 50 hits in total, which is kind of average. It's not the best, but what improves that, what makes it better, is the fact that he's got true dual wield, so that increases it to 100. And the amount of AoE hits that it has, I checked in the video, and it looks like the AoE hits are 26. So when you have two weapons equipped and you're using true dual wield, which you should be doing all the time, then the AoE hits are going to be 52 against all enemies, and then the rest of those hits, so 48 hits, are going to be single target. So 100 hit special, because true dual wield is actually pretty good, and that's why I think his special could be pretty solid, because it's got 100 hits, and having a 100 hit special is obviously on the higher end of specials that we've got. So I do think his special is going to be pretty good. I don't think it's going to be the best, it's not going to be anything game breaking, but I still think it's going to be a pretty good one, and I would probably want to use it. And also considering this time trial event is more focused on using specials, so you do want to be using specials in this time trial event, at least enough to get your maximum points. And Levi may be a pretty good unit for this time trial, I don't know. I would assume so, because some enemies are weak to dark and he has a good special, so he's probably going to be ideal for this time trial maybe, but I don't know, I'm just thinking. So let's get over to his traits, which always get more interesting. Now, his trait 1 is his most basic trait. Everything else from past his trait 1 is going to be like really confusing, but I do want to make this as simple as possible to understand how he works, and all of his damage caps and everything are quite confusing, but let's start with the simplest one, which is trait 1, obviously. I'm just noticing something, and that is literally this sprite is just the normal form of Levi, which is weird. Like, that's very lazy. You just take the sprite of original Levi and put it on his trait. That's already a bad sign when you're starting a buff for that. But anyways, trait 1, skill and special damage 30%, which isn't a whole lot, but should be fine. Damage cap 18,000, so dual wield 18,000 is pretty good, definitely a lot, and it applies to skill and special, so both of his skills and specials should be doing pretty good. And you also get skill and special damage cap 20,000 more against boss monsters, so this kind of enforces the fact that he's going to be a PvE unit that is focused on killing bosses, and I do like that. I think that's okay, but you'll see later. So I think this is fine, but against normal enemies, I don't know how good his damage cap's going to be, but against bosses, he should be very good. It kind of reminds me a bit of Rerun, who is supposed to be a boss killer, has a lot focused on killing bosses, doing more boss damage, which I think's fine. I like that, it's okay. And also gives skills and special an anti-boss type effect, which is basically a slayer against every single boss. So if you're up against a boss, and that's the only enemy in the stage, then you don't need to worry about Slayers at all, because he's going to have Slayer against every single boss type enemy. So that's very good, and I do like that a lot. That's very good that he has that in his trait. So this trait 1 is great, I like it. Nothing to complain about here, it's just good damage caps and okay damage and some boss slayer. Very nice. And obviously this trait is focused on PvE, and he definitely looks like a PvE focused unit. I don't think he's going to work very well in PvP at all. Shift Mikasa seems like the better PvP unit, and Levi is probably the better PvE unit, which I did expect that when I was going into this collab, because the original units also did something like that, where Mikasa was a PvP unit and Levi was a PvE focused DPS unit. So it's pretty similar in that way. So trait 2 starts getting interesting. It's a bit weird, but let's read it anyways. So whenever taking damage equal to 5% of the unit's max HP, then it boosts damage cap. Maximum of 10,000, and the boost doesn't reset each wave. So if you're taking more damage, then you're going to be getting more damage cap. This would imply that you would want to have something like Berserker, because that's going to be damaging him all the time. Or if you have that skill from the Street Fighter collab that uses your HP to increase your skill damage and stuff, which I didn't manage to get that, but if you have that, it would be very nice on him, because it synergizes very well with using skills and taking your HP. That's going to be great for his trait too. So I would probably just put on Berserker, and I think that will be fine for his trait 2. Here, for more damage cap, definitely consider putting Berserker on, because that allows you to get more damage cap in PvE. So make sure you have some healer in your team, but there's also another story. So this bit's fine. We've seen the things similar like this with other units before, like Lagrain and some other units I don't remember. Divine Beast Thouser probably somewhat similar, because he's about being low health and doing more damage. It's not my favourite, but it's okay. It's just some conditional damage caps, which can't go wrong with that. But it gets worse. So here's a unique debuff. So give the Vengeance debuff to the enemy that defeats the unit, and there's no time limit on the effect, and it's once per wave. So let me stop there for the moment. It is a debuff which only applies once the enemy defeats this unit, and it can only happen once per wave. It's not great for that reason, because the enemy has to defeat him, right? And it's once per wave. So if it was every time he died and it had a bunch of revives, then it could have been fine in PvP, but it's not, because it's once per wave, and in PvP this is just going to be terrible. He's definitely not a PvP unit. I would probably just ignore him in PvP and just think about PvE entirely, but I do still want to talk about both just in case, just to cover both areas. But also in PvE content as well, you don't want a unit to die because they're a DPS unit and you want them to keep using skills to keep outputting damage, you know? And you don't want your DPS, your main DPS, to die at all. So I don't like this Vengeance debuff just because defeating the unit isn't something you want happening at all, and you're most likely going to be running a healer in your team. And if he ends up killing himself from like Berserker or something, then this debuff's not going to happen, because he has to get killed by the enemy, so he can't kill himself or anything. The enemy has to kill him for him to inflict that debuff to the enemy. So honestly, I don't really like this debuff that much. It's just too conditional, and it's not my favorite type of debuff. So what does this debuff actually do? It says here, but also when HP hits 0, auto revive and restore 100% of HP once per wave. So this is a extra revive. It's basically equivalent to decoy, but also restores all your HP, so I like that, that's fine. And then the physical attack and special damage 80% and damage cap 20,000 to enemies with the Vengeance debuff, and damage taken minus 50% from enemy with the Vengeance debuff. So obviously, yes, this is all amazing. It's a lot of damage and damage cap, and you take 50% less damage, which is great, but I'll tell you why it's not good. Like what I've already said, is the enemy has to kill the units, and that is not great, because that conditional effect to activate this debuff is just not very good. And in most cases you don't want to try to activate this on purpose, because that's just not ideal. And if you want the best DPS, then your DPS unit needs to be alive the entire battle and be continuously outputting skills and doing a lot of DPS throughout the whole battle, right? So you don't really want your DPS unit to die. I've said that many times, but there's just not very good. And it also gets worse. The fact is that he's also got the ODM gear buffs, and you lose all of your ODM gear buffs when you die, so it's not really good, is it? I'm not a huge fan of this, just because it doesn't sound fun to you want the enemy to kill you, so then you debuff the enemy, and then you revive, and then you're going to do a bunch more damage. That's great, but now you don't have any gas buffs. You get like one from one of his skills, but you don't have any gas buffs left because you just died and then you revived. And once that enemy dies, then you're screwed, because that enemy's dead, so the debuff is just gone and you can't inflict it again because once per wave. So I think, yes, in some scenarios this can be good, because let's say you're up against one very difficult boss, that boss kills you, and then obviously you're going to debuff the enemy and do a bunch more damage. That's very good, but that's the only situation where this will be good, is when you get killed by a boss that has a bunch of health, and then you debuff them and then do a bunch more damage, and you also take 50% less damage, which will be good. But let's say it's like a boss stage and it also spawns a bunch of enemies that do a lot of damage as well. If one of those enemies that the boss spawns kills you, then it will debuff that enemy. And that's what's funny, because the boss is not going to be debuffed, it's going to be that one enemy that kills you that's going to have the debuff. And once they die, then you can't inflict the debuff again in that entire wave. So I'm just not a huge fan of this, and it could have been okay if it was every time the unit died, and if it was not once per wave or something. And what also isn't great is it's only this unit, so this debuff, right, you would think a unique debuff would help the entire team. Well, no, this debuff doesn't do anything to your team. It only buffs Levi's damage and buffs his, damage mitigation. It only buffs Levi himself, so he's very selfish, and this debuff doesn't help anyone in the team, so it's not even a utility debuff to help the team. I'm just not a fan of this debuff, honestly, and that's why I think this trait 2 is just not my favourite. I like the trait 1, is fine, but the trait 2 I just don't really like too much, because first of all you've got more damage cap locked behind taking damage, right? And then you've also, the rest of this trait is just vengeance debuff. The extra revive is fine, that's fine, but yeah, this trait 2 doesn't really add too much, because if you think about, if you're not taking advantage of this debuff, then you're going to be losing out on a lot of these buffs, so I'm just a bit worried about it, is all I'm going to say, because this vengeance debuff sounds very strong. It's just, I don't like it. So let's leave it there for the moment for the traits. Let's go over to skills, which also gets a bit confusing with some of the skills, but it can't possibly be any worse, can it? So start off with the basic skills, which is fine. Attack up max, fighting spirit max, great. Heroism up 1 is a weird one to see, but fine. Advanced aim vitals and proud force, but he doesn't have any critical up skills. He does have auto critical though, so I guess it's fine. Illusion, okay, sure. Brute shield. You know why I'm stopping here is because brute shield, right, and illusion and stuff, this is survivability skills, but you don't want him to survive because you want him to get killed by the enemy. It's just a very weird kit, honestly. Anti-type boosts, obviously he doesn't have any slayers, but he has the boss slayers, so this anti-type boost damage will apply to all bosses. So every single boss in the game, you're gonna have slayer damage, and you get 50% more slayer damage, so he should be doing a hell of a lot of boss damage. He should be a great boss killer, I'm assuming. Auto Grand Brave is very good, auto critical, haste. These are just very nice to have. They are all very good continuous buffs for DPS units, so he should be expected to have those. Gale Force is more SET, but remember what I said when he should probably have Berserker because you want him to take damage? Yeah, this sucks. Like, Levi does not need this skill. This is just a waste because he's not going to be at max HP most of the time, is he? Because his whole kit is aimed around taking more damage to boost your damage cap and the enemy defeating you, so why are you going to be at max health? That's why this kit's just too weird, like, it doesn't synergize very well. 10% more ST recovery speed isn't a whole lot, but whatever, it's fine. It's not fine. Morning Tide is the skill that is from the Part 1 limited arc, which is fine. It's 30 strength at max MP. I think this skill's pretty good. Having more strength is good for PvE, so yeah, that just makes him even better against bosses. So he's a dark unit. He's got dark high drive and dark giga drive. He doesn't have dark drive or mega drive, but it's okay. These two are still pretty solid. Dark attack raise 1 and 3. You could put dark attack raise 2 on him if you really want to. He's got critical raise, so he does have some good dark damage skills. So I think this is pretty good. Pose of Glory makes sense. SET is always going to be useful. True dual wield, so this is just the same as dual wield, but it also applies to his special hit counts. That's the only difference. So, like I said earlier, his special hits, he has 50 hits on his special, so this will increase it to 100, which makes his special pretty good. So I think his special is going to be pretty good. Sword boost and Giga boost. Again, another unit with Giga Boost and not Mega Boost. It's obviously they're going to do that, but can't do much about that. You can put on Sword High Boost and Mega Boost if you've got them. If you have Mega Boost on from the UR arc. If you don't, then you can just put on Sword High Boost for more physical damage. Combo Master 2, he is dual wield, so this could be fine. Because if you use one skill 3, that is almost already 50 hits, so that's okay. Giant Killing 3 is nice. His skill and special damage and damage cap, so it's nice to have. Makes sense that he has this because he is supposed to be a boss killer type unit. Death God doesn't really make a whole lot of sense why he has this, because he's supposed to be doing more boss damage. Chance to insta-kill excluding bosses. Like, this can't be more opposite than his entire kit. He's got just a bunch of things that contradict each other, you know? So excluding bosses, but he's got a bunch of stuff that's aimed towards bosses. And then you've got this, which is whenever you're taking damage, but you've also got this that requires him to be at full health. That's why you can see why I don't like his kit very much. Because it's just a bunch of stuff that contradicts each other and doesn't sound fun to me, honestly. So now we get onto the more unique skills. These are great. So Scout Regiment, we've seen this many times. More physical damage to bosses based on the amount of allies that have this skill equipped. It's a good skill to have. Don't need to say much about this, but now we get on to the better skills. So these are the unique Levi skills that only he should have. Starting with Overdrive. Chance for specials to deal critical damage and special critical damage cap 10,000 isn't really that amazing, but this does allow you to increase your crit damage cap, which will technically increases damage cap of his special occasionally, so it's fine. It's not really that much to talk about. New ODM gear is what Shift Mikasa has, so this is the same skill, but everything else will be new. So apply 8 gas buffs to the unit to start battle, and when, obviously I don't need to say much about what this does because you should know what it does, but when you're far enough away from the enemy, it boosts its movement speed to use it, and it uses a gas buff, and then you do more damage. And then when you have at least one gas buff, you get more SCT recovery speed. So with this, these buffs, you lose these buffs when you die. So here's Vengeance debuff. If you get killed by a boss or someone, if you get killed, then you're going to be inflicted the Vengeance debuff, right? But you're going to lose every single one of your gas buffs, which... The whole point of these units is to stay alive, right? Like, Shiv Mikasa wants to stay alive as long as possible. But Levi is just... This form of Levi is just not done very well, I think. So, this skill damage 30% and damage cap 10,000 each wave, okay? Until skills are used 3 times, sure. And boss wave boosts to 6 times, and when revived give unit 1 gas buff. So this is a decent skill, right? It's okay. You get... It's basically equivalent to what Claude has, is pretty similar. Because you use skills 3 times, the first 3 skills you use gets 10,000 damage cap and 30% damage. That's basically the same as what Claude has, but does have an added boost of, on a boss wave it's 6 times instead, and you also get 1 gas buff when you revive, which isn't a whole lot. Like I said, 1 gas buff is not very much. It should have been more than 1, because if you start the battle, get killed by a boss, you're losing out on 8 gas buffs, so you lose all of your 8 buffs, and then you get 1 back. Like, it's not a good trade, really. And if you use this 1 gas buff, then now you're going to be losing out on the buffs that these give. So you're going to be losing out on the SCT recovery speed and whatever other buffs he has from having a gas buff applied. So yeah, this is fine. It's just giving 1 gas buff when you revive is just not enough. So this is a lot of words. Give physical attacks and special and anti-beast type effects. Sure, well, it's a bit weird because he doesn't really need this because he's got Boss Slayer already. But this will mean that any other enemies that are not bosses, he's going to have Beast Slayer, so that does make some sense, at least. When defeating Beast type enemy, then restore 10 seconds of SCT. This could be good against waves that have a lot of Beast type enemies, but that is very specific, so in most cases this isn't going to help you at all. When skill attacking an enemy with the Vengeance debuff, then there's a chance to absorb 3% of the damage as HP. That's okay, that's fine, but again, this is more locked behind his Vengeance debuff, and if you're not going to focus on his Vengeance debuff at all, then this skill isn't really going to do much, is it? Because if you're not up against a boss that is... If you're not up against any enemy that is a beast type that isn't a boss, then this isn't going to help. And if you're also not focusing on the Vengeance debuff, then this skill's just useless. So it's an okay skill, but the effects it gives are good, but it's just more conditional skills, and I don't really like that. But not too bad, I guess. So whenever another ally is incapacitated, then physical damage 10% and damage cap 2000, maximum of 50%, and 10,000 damage cap. So again, I don't like this skill because it wants your allies to die, and you don't want them to die, because if you're in PvE content, the whole point of PvE content is you want your team to survive as long as possible. You don't want anyone to die. You're going to be using a healer like Renner, so I'm not a huge fan of it just because it wants your allies to die, and you don't want them to die because you just want to, you want the whole team to live because you want to do more damage against bosses and stuff. it's just not really that fun to me. But yes, you can take advantage of this if you want, but I'm just not going to, because in most cases I'm just going to ignore this and not focus on killing my own units, because you're better off having your entire team just be alive and being useful instead of dying just to buff Levi, you know? And it isn't even that much of a buff. Like, let's say one of your healers or something dies, Levi's just going to get 10% damage and 2000 damage cap. Like, it's not a whole lot. So throughout long battles that you might get killed by a very strong boss or something, then yes, it will be a bit more useful, but I'm still not a huge fan of it. Then the last one here, when gas buff is applied, then won't flinch from physical attacks. This is very good. I like this a lot, but you've also got to remember that when you revive, you only have one. So if you use up this one gas buff, then you're no longer going to be immune to physical attack flinch. So yeah, another synergy that's terrible. Just anti-synergistic. When physically attacking, cut enemy chance to counter and chance to break enemy guard. So I've got one word, and this is why, just why. The reason why I'm saying that is he's a PvE unit and he's got this skill that says cut chance to counter. This doesn't matter because pretty much every enemy in PvE content doesn't counter. So this is when gas buff is applied. So what that means is when you have at least one gas buff active. It is a bit of a confusing wording, the way they've worded this. Because it says the same here, when gas buff is applied. So all that means is as long as you have at least one gas buff, then you're going to be immune to physical attack. So at the start of battle, you'll have 8 gas buffs. So as long as you have at least one left, then you're going to be immune to physical attack flinch, which is very good, obviously, and that will be useful. But when he dies, he's only going to have one gas buff, and if you really don't want to use this gas buff at all, because you want to save this gas buff if you revive, so then you can not flinch from physical attacks. It's just, I don't like his kit, just because there's a lot of skills that don't synergize. They're just the opposite of what they should be, and he's all over the place with all of his skills, and it's just not fun to me. That's what I think at the moment. Sixth enhanced skills, not really too much to say, just more damage caps and take less physical damage. So it felt like this took a lot longer to explain this kit than a typical unit, just because he's a lot more confusing, and he has a lot more just very strange skills that has a lot of words that just are not that great, honestly. So here's what I'm thinking right now. I think he is still going to be a decent DPS unit for PvE content, but just a lot of his kit is going to be wasted because a lot of it you're probably going to be ignoring in most scenarios, and the Vengeance debuff, I don't really ever see myself trying to get killed just to inflict this debuff on purpose. Like, I just don't see that happening. Obviously, it would be fun to mess around with, but it's just not very good, because let's just think about it for a second. Time trials, right? The whole point of time trials is to continuously doing damage, using skills as much as possible and not dying, right? So, like, this debuff is just not good for time trials. That's the problem. In any other PvE content that there's like a very difficult boss, yes, it would be useful, but like, I still don't like it. And the fact that a lot of his skills are just very weird, like this. So let me just quickly have a look at everything. So, one, he needs to take damage to boost his damage cap, right? and he also needs to die to inflict a debuff, but the enemy has to kill him. So those are two conditional things right there. And then number 3, he has to be at max HP to get more ST recovery speed. So on top of taking damage and dying, he also has to be at max HP for whatever reason to get more ST recovery speed. Obviously, you don't really need to worry about this too much, but it's still a conditional skill that I should mention. Morning Tide isn't really that much of a conditional. This is a lot easier conditional skill to accomplish, so I'm not really going to count this because you can easily be at max MP. And then, yeah, obviously, like, other skills are just like when reviving, you give one gas buff, and then you have gas buffs at the start of battle when you lose every single buff once you die, which is like the main purpose of his trait 2 is to die. The enemy wants to kill him, but then he loses the gas buffs, and it's just a mess. I don't like it at all. So, like, I just get confused whenever I read these skills because they just don't work. Because Vengeance debuff, the enemy needs to defeat the unit, but the start of battle you'll have 8 gas buffs which you'll lose when you die, and then you get 1 gas buff, but you want to keep your gas buffs because you want to be immune to physical attack flinch. And you also want to keep your gas buffs to get more ST recovery speed. It's just not... I don't like it. I just don't like his kit. Like, that's why I don't really care too much about pulling him, because he just doesn't seem fun to me. He's just not that fun. If he had a better kit, like, if all of this stuff, conditional things, were different, then he would have been a great unit. Like, if this Vengeance debuff didn't require the enemy to defeat the unit, if it was like a determination effect where he survives lethal damage and then it does something like buffs him or something, then that would be fine. I think that would be okay, but still not the best, because he still needs to take damage to buff himself, which isn't what you really want in PvE, so yeah. What I'm thinking is he has a hell of a lot of damage caps, and he will be a very good DPS unit for PvE content, especially against bosses. He's probably going to be very strong. It's just a lot of his skills and his trait 2 with its Vengeance debuff, I don't like it because it's just not fun to try and take advantage of those buffs. So if I were to use him, what I would do is just completely ignore the Vengeance debuff, and that's just sad because the Vengeance debuff adds a lot of buffs to him. So I would definitely ignore this debuff because you don't want him to die on purpose. That's just going to be a buff that's going to happen occasionally when you're up against a very tough boss that kills you. You know, it's going to happen sometimes, but I wouldn't try to focus on taking advantage of this debuff, honestly, because you want the unit to be alive all the time, to be doing as much damage as possible when using all their skills, right? So I still think it could be good. I'm going to leave that there. I still think he's going to be a good PvE unit, but I just don't like him because a lot of his skills are not fun. So let's talk about the arc next. Hopefully this is actually fun, you know? Hopefully this is better. So I haven't looked too in-depth to this arc, haven't really checked it, but I checked it in the video, and the learnable skills seem pretty good. So the trait, when you have 2 weapons, so if you have a sword and / or machine, so if you have a sword and a machine, then, or 2 swords or 2 machines, then you're going to get skill and special damage 30%. This is alright, but 30% isn't a whole lot, and it's more conditional, but it's not a big deal because sword and machine weapons are the 2 most used weapons, and most units have a sword or machine, or both. So this is fine, most units can benefit from this, and it's to skill and special. so I think that's good. But 30%, there are a lot better traits that I'd rather use, because 30% isn't a whole lot. We have traits that give 40% instead, which are way better. Cut physical attack damage taken from, based on number of living human type allies, maximum of 20%. So one thing that it doesn't say is how much it is per ally, but I'm going to assume maximum of 4 allies, so probably 5% per ally. I'm going to assume something like that. But it's an ally. Doesn't matter too much. Like, cut physical damage taken, it's okay. Battle End, restore special gauge by 20% and all skills by 15 seconds. So this trait honestly is okay, but I don't think it's the best. It's not something I would really want to use because it's just kind of average. It's very mid, and there are a lot better traits that you could use. But if this is one of your only arcs that you have, or something, like if you're a newer player, then this could be useful for you, but I don't really see myself using this one. So learnable skills I think are going to be the main focus of this arc. So defense, down evasion, and dark drive we've seen before, so we don't really need to mention that. They are okay. ODM gear mindset is a new one. So when you have 2 weapons equipped, then skill damage 10%, and when rear attacking 20% more. So I think this skill is going to be perfect for Shift Mikasa, which sucks because this is on the part 2 banner, which is annoying, and I know they did that on purpose. This skill should have been on the part 1 arc because Mikasa would love this, because her skills do move her around a lot and she can benefit from backstab type skills, so I think this skill for 6 SC is a pretty decent skill, and I could see myself using this in PvP, like Arena. I could probably use this. I think this would be good for Arena and maybe Guild Battles potentially, but the main unit that's going to benefit from this skill is Shift Mikasa, and I will definitely talk more about Shift Mikasa later today and mess around with her a bit, and because I've been testing her out the past week, so I'll be talking more about her later, but I do think this skill would be very good for Shift Mikasa mostly, but any other unit that can benefit from rear attacks damage is going to benefit from this skill, but if you're not rear attacking, then 10% skill damage for 6 SC, just not worth it. But 30% for 6 SC, now you're talking, that's pretty good. So, I think it's a decent skill. I could use it on a couple units, mostly Shift Mikasa. HP plus 2 isn't really a big deal because we've seen that on other arcs. Well, one other arc that's easily obtainable. The Wings of Freedom, I think this one could be pretty good. Cut physical attack and counter damage taken from enemies based on the number of allies with this skill equipped. So 2 allies 5%, 3 allies 10%, and 4 allies 15%. So maximum of 15% less damage from physical and counter for 7 SC. Is that worth it? I think that's probably worth it, yeah. If you have an entire team with this skill equipped, if you're building a full tank team, I think this would be a very good skill to use for PvP. But 7 SC is a bit expensive still, but since it's a maximum of 15% physical and counter, I think it's fine. I could see myself using this for PvP content, so I think these two are PvP focused skills, and I think they are pretty decent, but they're not something that I would use on every single unit in PvP. They're not that good, but they are something that you can consider using on a couple of your PvP builds, a couple of your units or your teams for PvP, so I think this can be valuable. And then the final skill here is Special Breakthrough 3, which gives 5,000 more damage cap for your special for 6 SC. I think this is the first time we're seeing this, so this is a good skill to have as well. So This is a decent arc for the learnable skills, but I still think that the Part 1 arc is a bit better. For the arc, it has a better archive reward, and the learnable skills are pretty okay as well. I don't know why I've forgotten them already, for some reason. Archive reward on this arc is whatever really. Physical attack damage to airborne enemies 10%, sure. And then when the unit is airborne, you take 10% less physical damage. It's an okay accessory, but I don't know if I would want to use this really. I mean, it's an accessory, so doing 10% more damage and taking 10% less damage is good, but it's only if you're in the air or if the enemy's in the air, so yeah. It's an okay accessory, but I wouldn't really use it too much. So, I definitely think the best things about this arc are definitely going to be the learnable skills. Everything else about this arc isn't really that great, so that's all I really think about this arc. It's just an okay average arc, but the learnable skills are better. I think they're pretty solid. The Part 2 arc, yeah, this one had Fire Enhanced, Sharp Blow, Morning Tide. Honestly, what makes this Part 1 arc a tiny bit better in my opinion is this weapon. I just think this Archive Reward weapon is a lot better. But I do think both arcs are decent, but none of them are worth pitying for sure. You shouldn't really be going for pity for any of these. So yeah, I will talk more about these banners a bit later on what I think is better. Part 2, I think it looks okay, but I wouldn't pull that hard on it, honestly. I will come back to it in a bit later, but I want to have a look at Levi's paid equipment since I haven't looked at that yet, but what I've heard is they're not anything crazy, so let's have a look. So this is the normal trading space. This one will be for the paid equipment, so he's got a sword. Dark attribute sword makes sense, obviously he'll have a dark sword. Strength 10%, sure, that's fine. And dark skill and special damage 20% of damage cap 2000, sure. And anti-type damage cap 2000. So this sword is actually pretty good. For a PvE unit, this will definitely be his best in slot sword. And the fact is, anti-type damage cap is going to be active all the time against bosses because it has boss slayer effect on his trait 1. So against bosses he's going to have plus 2000 damage cap from this weapon, which makes it very good. So I do like this sword. It will be a very good sword to use for him in PvE, but obviously you don't need to use it, but still 4000 damage cap against bosses is just very good. So I think it's a very good sword, honestly. This accessory, so stats are okay. The trait, physical magic and counter damage taken minus 10%. Anti-type damage 15% and boss wave start special gauge plus 10%. I don't think it's that great. I'll tell you why. Is usually taking less damage would be good. Like on Shift Mikasa, it was her pet accessory is very good, and I got it for that reason, that it's just a very good accessory because she wants to take less damage. But Levi, he doesn't want to take less damage really because his whole kit is built around the enemy killing him. So you can see why I don't think this accessory is very good, because if you're taking less damage, then you're not going to die as often. So it's just why I'm just very surprised why they would add this on a paid accessory where his kit is aimed around, you know, him dying and taking damage. It's stupid. So this is arguably a bad thing. You don't want to take less damage on Levi because he wants to take more damage. That's what his kit is revolved around, or at least some of his kit, so I don't like that. The anti-type damage 15% is very good because that's going to be 15% damage against every single boss enemy because he has boss slayer, so that's very good. The boss wave start special gauge 10%, isn't really a whole lot, honestly, so I would prefer this weapon over the accessory. I think this weapon's better. Considering he's a PvE focused unit, I think you should get the sword if you're going to choose one. I wouldn't really recommend this accessory just because taking less damage in PvE content isn't really a massive deal. Like, yes, it's still going to be somewhat useful, but his kit isn't revolved around, you know, taking less damage or anything, so, and it's not even a PvP unit. For that reason, I don't think this accessory is worth getting, really. But an accessory that gives 15% anti-type damage, by itself, that isn't worth it, because we do have a equivalent accessory which also gives 15% anti-type damage. So yeah, I would just, if you're going to choose one, get this sword, but honestly, you don't need to worry about any of these paid equipments because they're not that great. You don't really need to get any of these. But if you want them to be even better, just get a sword, but you don't need to. So yeah, paid equipments are okay. I'm not really a fan of his accessory, but the sword, if you're using him for a main DPS unit in PvE content, then yes, his sword will be very good for that, but that's about it. So yeah. He seems just very weird. His kit is just very strange. I do want to do summons now, but I got to tell you, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot just because I'm not too fussed about getting him. Yes, I think he'll be very good DPS unit, but I just don't think his kit's very fun, and I don't really care too much about, you know, only DPS, because we've already got a bunch of good DPS units in the game, like 2P, and her skill 3 is just probably the best DPS we've got, or one of the best. Like, Shift Foul is also very good, but I know those are not Dark Element, but you could always put on Trishula. So I've been farming the event and stuff a little bit. I tried to get as many tickets as possible, so I'm going to be using tickets first. I don't expect to get anything today, so I'm not looking forward to getting anything. I'm just going to be doing the tickets, the lap 1 step gacha, and maybe a couple pulls after that. I doubt there's anything in this pool, I'm just going to watch it anyway, but yeah. Don't expect me to pull anything today because I'm not too fussed about getting anything, but if anything, I would love to get the limited arc. I think the limited arc will be very good to get. This is going to stay at gold for sure. The limited arc is going to be the best thing to get from this banner, so I would really like to get the limited arc. If I get one thing, then I'm probably just going to save, but I'm just going to try and save anyway. 3 is good. It's a blue, which you don't like seeing, but everyone showed up. Needs animations, so 2 or 3 animations could be a chance for a red, but 1 or 0 is not going to be a red at all. 1, I don't think so, no. 2 could maybe. 3 should be, but since it was a blue, I'm not... Yeah, that's a weird temple. I don't know what to say about that one, really. Should have been a red if I've got to be honest, but if it was a gold, if it showed up gold, then 3 animations would usually be a guaranteed red. Tickets, I haven't had anything at all from tickets this collab, which sucks, but can't do much about that. So, I'm not going to be doing that many summons, but I do at least want to try to get the arc. So, I will do lap 1, and then I do want to at least do a couple free crystals just to try to get the arc. But I'm not going to be going super hard on this banner. And then after that, I do want to talk more about, like, any updates or anything. This one's going to be a skip. Yeah, blue's a skip. There's nothing in that one. Obviously. Haven't even got a red yet. Later on, I do want to mess around with the Mikasa a bit and kind of talk about how she's been performing, because honestly, I think Shift Mikasa's a pretty good unit. Can we get some reds, at least? No, I don't think so. A blue's still nothing. I'm not going to watch if it's blue, like... We need to get some reds, and some new stuff, but I doubt we get anything new today. So this is 6 pulls in here. I'm hoping we get 1 red, but I doubt it. I'm not going to be pitting anything from part 2. If we get unlucky, then I'm just going to be skipping his banner, but I still want to try. Theria's okay. The gold is good. This is good. So, yes, you should definitely be saving for anniversary. I don't think Levi's worth pulling, really. But if you like him, then it's up to you. Please be animations. 1, I don't know if that's enough. 2 should be, maybe. There's a red. There's the first red of the day. We are hoping for, obviously, something new, but the limited arc is the one thing that we want from this banner. Oh, this is the arc. Damn. That is great. That's a very good find. There is another red. I doubt it's Levi, but imagine if it was. This arc, arguably this arc is the best thing that you can get from this banner. Levi's still solid, but, you know. Yeah, I was expecting a dupe there. So, I'm happy I got this because this arc is definitely going to be very useful. For ODM geared mindset on Shiv Mikasa, I'm looking forward to using that because Shiv Mikasa's pretty decent and fun unit. The Wings of Freedom, I am thinking about putting this on arena teams, but I'm also thinking, yeah, on guild versus guild attack team, this might be worth using, but on guild battles defense on your forts, I don't think it's worth using because on forts, usually you're trying to mitigate magic damage more than physical encounters, so special breakthrough I'm probably going to try and put on 9S if he doesn't have this, so yeah, this is a very good find. I hope I get Levi, but I'm probably going to do a few singles, but that's it. So I'm really hoping we get another mage, yes, but I have no idea what they're going to be releasing in the future, so we can only just wait and see. But for now, there are a couple of things that I'm hoping we get, like, number 1 is obviously a mage. I would like some more mages in this game. And I would also like a new non-attribute unit, because we haven't had a non-attribute DPS unit in a while. I'm just going to be doing a couple singles just in case we can get Levi, because that would still be nice, but I'm not going to be going super hard for him. This is a just in case. I was considering stopping after getting the arc, but I still want to do it a couple singles just in case, because you never know. It's still worth having him, but not worth going super hard. Zekas with a blue is definitely not going to be worth watching. That's going to be a gold, probably. Yeah, I can do my guessing game from this, which is actually kind of fun, to some extent. No one showing up most of the time, just going to be instant skip, especially when you see a blue, it's not going to be anything. I want to get at least one more red. Theria is usually better, but gold, maybe. Maybe this one could give a red, but this is like the most promising that it can look, but it can still be a gold. Like that, yeah. I think collab units in general are just more worth getting because they are limited and they're not guaranteed to come back in the future, so trying to pull for limited units is usually the better plan, but the DOH units that we've had, a lot of them have been very strong, like F-Zekas and Garland and such, and even Gilbert have been very strong DOH units. Yeah, I'm just going to get one red, and then I'm going to be leaving. I'm not going to be trying harder than this. I'm just going to get one more red and hope it's Levi, and whatever it is, I'm just going to leave. That's my plan. We do get 3 more tickets from login tomorrow, or today. There's a gold. Can you at least give me enough animations to give a red in this one? Because the last one, there were no animations and there was obviously gold, so you need animations. No animations are going to be trash. 1 is still not enough. 2, maybe. 3, maybe. Yeah, there we go. Probably going to be a dupe, isn't it? How much do you want to bet it's a dupe? Yeah, obviously. There's an arc dupe, yeah. I'm not going to be trying too hard on this banner. Smart thing to do is to save for upcoming things, obviously. Like, here's what I'm thinking. I think it is worth trying a bit to try to get him because he's going to be a good DPS unit, but it's not worth going super hard. And I should probably try and play smart and take my time and not do too many summons by trying to get tickets first, and, you know, which I'm very close to considering doing that. 23. You know what? I'll get this 1 ticket, and then I'll probably do like 7 singles to get the 2nd ticket or something. I don't know. I want to at least try to get him. F. Zekis, he's been about for a while at this point, so he should be, but I have no idea what they're going to be releasing or giving us in the anniversary. But it is going to be coming up in like a couple weeks or something. If only this was a Levi, imagine. No, that's just another thing. Obviously blue. Maybe I'll do a couple more singles and then save for next week, because the next banner is going to be next week, because this collab only lasts 2 weeks. Yeah. I doubt we get anything else, honestly. Blue with Tharia is just going to be bad. Oh, never mind. Oh, I lied. Wow, the first time I was wrong. That's good. That's great. That's okay. Well, I don't know what to say about that one, but amazing. That was a Tharia by herself with a blue. Usually, in a lot of scenarios, that animation, that setup would be not very good. But yeah. Okay. So we can stop summoning now. This collab has actually been very good to me. Hopefully it's been good to everyone else as well, because collabs are always exciting, and I'm assuming a lot of people probably don't have many crystals because there have been a lot of limited things lately, and like Guile and stuff, and top tier PvP units and arcs and things. There have been a lot of stuff released lately, so hopefully you can get like it from tickets, but this is great. Now I can definitely spend some time at messing around with Levi. So I am still kind of in the middle about Levi. Like, I like him as a unit, especially this form of Levi. When he released, he was one of my favourite units. That's why he's at plus 16, because I believe I had to pity him or something, and it was very fun. This form of Levi, on the other hand, just has a lot of skills in his kit that I'm not happy about, and they're just not fun, but I'm very much hoping that he's still going to be a fun unit to mess around with and use in PvE against bosses and stuff. I still think it's going to be somewhat fun, as long as you don't focus too hard on his trait 2 and everything. He could still be fun. That's what I'm hoping. He probably still is, honestly, but reaching his full potential is not going to be fun. That's what I'm going to say. But yeah, I haven't calculated his maximum damage cap potential, but I have seen people reach 100k plus dual wield damage cap with him, which is crazy, right? But just remember, don't get fooled by him because he's got a lot of conditional stuff that's hard to reach. But yeah, I will be showcasing him a bit later on. Well, not that later, honestly, just a couple minutes or so. Let's go to the arc. I did learn a couple of arcs, couple of skills on Levi, but I was thinking I was just going to skip him and not pull him, so I didn't really learn everything, teach him everything, which I should have done. So, while we're here, we might as well level up this arc. Why not? As much as we can. This is another arc that takes blue souls, which is great because I have leveled up every arc that I have that requires blue souls, apart from the new ones. So now I'm thinking, should I get his paid sword, because I did say it was very good. Well, at the moment, I'm going to be waiting, because I don't know how good his DPS potential is, but if it turns out that he's the new best DPS, then I might get his paid sword, but for now, I'm going to be saving. I think that's the smart play. Should be able to get this to level 8 or 9, I think. Probably 9. I do want to see what it is like at level 10. I'll be able to collect a few more blue souls. I still think he does look very cool. Sprite is cool and everything. I don't watch anime or anything. Well, I've watched a couple, but I'm not really a big fan. Well, I don't really watch too much, so I don't know anything about them, but there are a couple of exceptions. Like, I've watched a few episodes of Nier collab, the Nier anime, because that's actually pretty fun, but didn't get round to finishing that because I don't have a premium account for Crunchyroll, so... So at level 10, it's 25%. So at level 15, it'll probably go up to 30%. Yeah, and that's probably the only difference. So you're probably fine at level 10 with this arc trait, because the difference from level 10 to 15 isn't too much, I think. So you could, if you're a newer player, you don't need to focus on leveling up this arc trait that much, because you're better off just getting this at level 10 and then focusing on the better arcs that you should be getting to level 15 instead, or level up everything to level 10 first, then once you've done that, focus on the most important arcs to get to level 15, because there are a couple that are used in PvP, and some of their level 11 to 15 traits increases are pretty strong on a couple arcs, but not all of them. Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure when I checked it that the Nier anime was only on Crunchyroll, but I don't know, I haven't checked that in a long time. So, that is the arc leveled for now. I'm going to be keeping it level 9, but trying to get it to level 10 and level up further a bit later, so, well, whenever I can. I quickly want to check the news. There isn't really that much to talk about, but I just want to make sure I cover everything just in case I don't miss anything. And then I want to start showcasing Levi very soon, and then do his equipment stuff and build him as well. And then after that, the plan's going to be talking more about Mikasa, I think. So yeah, still got a lot of stuff that I want to do for the rest of the stream, at least an hour or something, I'm assuming. So yeah, this will definitely be a lot of a longer stream than the previous one. So there isn't that much that they've added to this event, but the one main thing that they added to this event was the time trial type event, the ranked event, which I think is going to be very fun, and I am looking forward to messing around with that. I have tried it a little bit, but I haven't tried too much yet. Descent of Heroes Festival. Usually you can skip these most of the time. Like, I just ignore these all the time because I have everything anyway. I think there's a new hard boss stage, which I always like these. Because this is like endgame content, so I enjoy doing these. Tower of Trials is back, so that's just 3 crystals, that's pretty good. There's a new fort skin. There you go, I said that word just for you. And yeah, there's basically nothing else. There isn't really anything else in this update, so yeah, there's like hardly anything in this update, but there are a few events that they've added, so there's not a lot of changes or quality of life updates or anything, but there are a good number of events right now. So obviously we've got the time trial, that's the only thing they added to the part 2 update. They've got unit test play quest, which I will do in a moment, well, in a bit, and then the high difficulty stage I haven't looked at yet, and then tower trials. So yeah, there is a bit of content that you can do right now. Let me go into this, but I'm not going to do it yet. What is this boss? It's a beast-type boss, aim for high combo hit count, so you're going to want to use a dual wield unit. The resistance is cut based on your hit count, plus going over a certain number of combo hits will put it into break. So that already gives me an idea. And go for darks attacks. You know what's funny? Is this is basically telling you want to use Levi. Shift Levi. They want you to use Shift Levi for this stage. You don't need to, but watch out for its intensifying attacks. Boss makes use of a light attack that will hit your whole party, becomes more powerful as the battle continues, and as the attack powers up, it will turn the battle screen white, so be sure to defeat the boss before the screen turns completely white. That's fun. You know, I like these. These are the stages I really like. I'm not going to be doing it today, but I at least wanted to have a look. So yeah. To basically say a little bit about it, I would say you should be using Linus as your mage and use a dark physical dual wield unit if you've got one. Like Shift Levi would be the best option, but you don't need to. You could just use any dual wield unit and do Trishula, but I don't know if that would work against this boss. We'll have to see. Other websites, that would be great. I hardly know anything about anime websites or anything, so that's me, but I swear the last time I checked it was exclusive to Crunchyroll, unless they've changed that recently. I don't know. So yeah. This boss I will be doing at some point, but it's got 34 days, got a lot of time. If you get Shift Levi, I do recommend building him and using him in a stage with Linus. So the ideal team I'm thinking for that stage is Shift Levi I mean, with Linus, and then the final unit can be someone like Renner. I think that team would be fine, and would probably clear it quite easily, because at least what the information said, that you can use dark attacks, the boss is a beast type, and you've got to do high hit counts, so you need dual wield physical DPS with Linus. Basically what I'm gathering from that. Or Advocate of God Lily, because she's dark mage, maybe. Thinking about it. That's cool then. I'll definitely have to check that out somewhat later or something. Which is pretty cool, because that's like the only anime I've ever watched. Actually, I lied. For some reason, I kind of remember watching a few anime shows when I was a kid, because they showed up on TV program, which was weird. There was Yu-Gi-Oh! Was on TV when I was very young, I remember, but I don't know why. That was a bit of a weird one, but I remember watching it when I was very young. I don't know why, because I don't know why I would watch that, but it's interesting to think that I did watch it. So let's go over the Steam version now, and I do want to start building Levi. Open Steam, already got stuff open. It takes like 5 seconds. It's already open. There you go. So I want to just get all of Levi's base skills, and then go over recommended equipment with Levi, and then start testing him out a bit. Yeah, Beyblade's weird. I don't know. I briefly remember that I've watched a couple when I was young, but that's about it. I honestly, I'm more into playing stuff than watching, or watching YouTube videos. Those are like the only two things I do in my free time. Is like this. Obviously, I stream in my free time. That's what I'm doing right now. If you consider that free time, probably. And then doing games, and then watching videos and just chilling out. Those are like the only things to do at the moment. Well, how if you play Last Cloudia, you probably at least know more about anime, right? Because like I'm more into anime games more than the anime itself, because I play like Genshin Impact and all that stuff, and I like it. I'm a fan of it, but like JRPG is probably the correct term. So let's start building him properly. I'm gonna use a rainbow potion. I did get lucky and got a rainbow potion from the event the other day, which was nice. So let's use that. And then enhance, flip enhance, and then unlock everything. Always takes time. Have the other proof that my comrades sacrificed their lives, that they were alive. That's okay. So now let's do the boring part, which nobody likes doing. Teaching all these skills. Please give us an unlock all button. Sword equipped physical damage cap 100. That's actually good. I know 100 is not a lot, but I'll tell you why I don't watch much. The reason being, I only watch cartoons when I'm eating dinner or lunch. Those are the only times I watch cartoons. Or watch TV, I should say. I don't watch TV any other time. I am not a person that would want to watch like an anime or anything in my free time, really. I'm not that kind of person, but I like watching TV when I have meals. That's like the only time. But TV downstairs doesn't have like any anime apps or anything, so it's not like I can just go downstairs, eat dinner, and watch some anime shows or anything, because we don't really have that downstairs. Or I could just go upstairs in my room and watch stuff there, but that's not really something I like doing either. You know, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you what I have watched, okay? I don't know if you'll be impressed or what, but I've watched every single episode of The Simpsons and Futurama and Family Guy. Those are like the main three that I watch pretty much all the time. And that's about it. So, I know The Simpsons has a lot of seasons, but I've watched every single episode ever that they've ever made, so that tells you something. Yeah. You know, if there were anime shows, it would probably be on the kids' programs, which we don't have anymore because nobody watches them. Family Guy's funny, and I just like watching cartoons in general, and they're always funny. And I always feel like once I watch every single one, they should release more because there's not enough of them. Like, especially Futurama. I know they did a new season not long ago, but they really need to do more seasons because it just feels like there's not enough. That's cool. I'll tell you something. So, I'm like one of the... I'm a big Simpsons fan, but I don't get merch or anything. Actually, I lied, I do have a few, but I'm not like super crazy, like I don't get wear merch or anything, but one of the first games I played was the Simpsons Hit and Run game, and I've completed that game at least 2 or 3 times, at least that I can remember. That game is amazing. They really need to make a second game, but I don't know why they didn't. It's great. Because that game was one of the first games I played. It's pretty great. Just have a few more skills to learn. This is always the most boring part. That's why I'm not even talking about this. Yeah, Hit and Run. I've played that so many times. It is definitely one of the best games. It's so fun, but once you beat it... Wait, I don't have materials. You can't be... Oh, okay. I should have made more of those. Huh. Okay, well... That's weird. Yeah. I'm surprised at things that you don't know, like, seriously. Let me go make some books. Not literally, of course, but in the alchemy, like, if I just said, oh, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna make some books, that'd be weird. There are other Simpsons games, like some forgotten Simpsons games that you may not have heard of, like Simpsons Skateboarding. Right, you may not have heard of that. Why can I go and craft that many? Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay. I needed those anyway, that's fine. The Simpsons Skateboarding and the Simpsons game. I will definitely E6 him, but I can't do that today. Or I could, but I don't want to waste time doing it today. I like showcasing them, the unit at 5th Enhanced, just because 6th Enhanced isn't that much of a difference. But I do think he's worth getting 6th Enhanced because he's a physical DPS unit, he's a main DPS unit, so you should be buffing up his damage cap and stuff as much as possible. Now we've got the materials. Should have checked those yesterday, but I didn't think I would need to because I didn't think I would get them at all, which is interesting. The Simpsons game is actually underrated, it's great. So Mikasa, let's start getting back on track for the actual game that people care about and why they're here. Mikasa, I do want to talk a bit more about her later because I don't think it's appropriate to talk about her yet because I'm still showcasing Levi stuff, but I will be talking about Mikasa a bit later on just because it makes it a whole lot easier for me to separate parts of this video in and adding the timestamps in later makes it's a whole lot easier, especially when people watch this as a video later on. So I'm going to be talking about Mikasa a bit later, but just quickly, I do think she is better than Levi as a unit as a whole, but I will test her out and I want to talk more about her later. For the moment though, let's go over his recommended equipment. Yeah, Godforge is a pain for new players. I am lucky because I've played for like ever since the game came out. I've been playing, which is a long time at this point. But Godforge for me is like very easy because I just casually get materials from the event. A new player would have a lot of content to do, but when you're someone like me who has done everything, there's not a whole lot left. It's mostly new unit. So let's have a look at recommended equipment right now. So he can equip the same equipments pretty much as Shiv Mikasa, which is a sword, spear, and machine. So if you remember his kits from earlier, he has sword boost and giga boost, so you 100% need to have at least one sword on him, but his second weapon can be anything else, literally. So I would either recommend 2 swords. Let's have a look at sword options first. So the first weapon should be a sword. Here's a dark physical DPS. Obviously Muramasa is going to be great. That's always a great Godforged sword that you should try to get as soon as possible if you don't have it. That is probably the best option because there isn't really that much else that is better than that, but there are still alternatives like Sword of Lost Souls is pretty solid on Levi because his special is a decent special. It's got good hit counts, and I believe his special should be a pretty good one, especially against bosses. So this Sword of Lost Souls sword could be a good option. Could even put on a Sword of Lost Souls plus Muramasa and have 2 swords if you want to, but that's just something to think about. This sword is decent, but it's not going to be Muramasa, so I would just recommend go for the best sword that you've got. Probably Muramasa. I'm going to be using that for now. Let me just quickly check if there's any other swords that I would put on. This one's okay, but it's not great. I would just prefer using Muramasa if you have it. Anything else? Light? No. Looking for dark? Really? Let's to make it fast, let's go press this button. If you level up this to max level, it's 10% dark skill and you get 500 damage cap. These are event weapons. You could use this if you're literally just starting or if you literally have no other options. So I'm pretty sure we get one from the event or something. If you just max it out plus 40, then it could be a good option. This one, that one's interesting. That one's okay to use. This one, yeah, like another sword that's dark physical attack, damage 10% and damage cap 500. Those ones are going to be okay to use if you don't have any other options. But yeah, I would definitely recommend just use the best sword you've got for more physical or skill damage. If you have any dark sword, then obviously that's going to be best. Like if you've got his paid sword, that would be better to use than Muramasa for sure for PvE content. But for the moment, I'm definitely going to be using Muramasa. And then the second weapon gets... You've got a bunch of choices for the second weapon, honestly, but what you could do is you could go for a second sword if you really want to. Like what I said is Sword of Lost Souls plus Muramasa, or even his paid sword plus Sword of Lost Souls or something like that could be very good. Or you can go Sword of Lost Souls plus Trishula if you really want to. So Machine is probably going to be the second best weapon option if you've got something good. This one's okay because it gives, it's a dark machine and it gives critical damage, but I probably wouldn't recommend that as my number one option, honestly. You could go for Trishula, like I've said already, but yeah, there aren't too many good machines. I think the same thing is said about spears, but I do want to check just in case. Actually, this one's pretty solid. You could use this. This one gives strength, 15% more physical damage. You know, it's not the best. It could allow you to use spear boost and stuff, but you could just use a second sword instead, so it really depends. If you want to benefit from like machine boost skills, like machine boost and high boost and mega boost, then you would definitely want to put on a machine as your second weapon, so it really depends on what build you're building, funny enough. But yeah, you could go for 2 swords. I am considering that at the moment, but if I build him fully, I am strongly considering going for a machine like Trishula and putting on machine boost, high boost, and giga boost, well, mega boost, just for the damage and damage cap. And the piercing helps a lot too. I might as well just put on sniper rifle for the moment just because it's a dark weapon and it's a machine. Actually, let's just put on a second sword just because I don't think it matters what weapon I put on at the moment. Since he's not built at the moment, he's just base skills. All you really need is at least one sword, and other weapon can be anything else you want, but I'm going to put on Sword of Lost Souls. Here it is. This will be great because that will allow his special to ignore elemental resistance, so it's kind of equivalent to Trishula but for special. Spirit Maiden Tharia, that's great. She's still one of the best units. She isn't the best anymore because Ren is better, but she's still the best healer that is accessible for most players, I think. Yeah, especially if you're a new player or if you don't want to spend, pulling anything is just a pain in the arse. You don't want to waste crystals, you want to get lucky. I feel that, I always feel that, especially when I'm trying a new game and I get unlucky, I just end up quitting. It happens. So, accessories, we do have a lot more options for accessories because he's a dark unit that uses swords and machines, so we do have a lot of options available. Mithril Relief is a good one. Like always, he's going to be using one sword guaranteed, so I would recommend using that. And then the other accessory, depends. This one is very good. If you have this, then I would strongly consider using this because this is 15% dark attack damage, which will apply to his special damage as well. So if you're going for like a special damage focused build, then you could put on this accessory, which will buff his special damage. So a setup like this would actually be ideal for his special, where this is kind of like a mix of both. It helps his special and also his physical damage. If you want only special, then there's probably a better accessory or something to use for that. But let's have a look at other accessory options, because I know there's a couple more that I at least want to have a look at. So yeah, this one, Equilibrium Sphere. If you're far enough in the game, then you should have this, because this is from a free UR arc that's available in the story. So if you reach far enough in the story and manage to beat the boss, which has 3 different waves, I think, it's been a long time since I've done that stage, then you'll be able to get this, which is one of the better accessories that we've got in the game. It gives 15% dark physical damage, so I would recommend using that. A setup like this, 15% and more, 15% more from both of these accessories. We do have some very good accessories for dark units. That's why there are a lot of good options for this guy. You could use something like ODM gear if you manage to get the arc. If you got the arc from the select ticket, which you should have, then you should have this. Is a good option, as well as this one. If you're using a machine, then you could use that if you really want to as well. So yeah, you have a lot of options available, especially if you've been around for a little while. You should have the more, accessible stuff. This one, like I said earlier, well, if you remember his kit, he's got Boss Slayer on his straight 1, so this is anti-type damage 15%, so against bosses, this will always be 15% more damage against bosses, and it also gives 100 strength, so this is a pretty solid accessory. And if you're also hitting absolute weakness, this accessory by itself can give up to plus 30% damage, so I do think this accessory is worth considering if you have it. It's a very good one. So yeah, this one, good too, because more skill damage. That's basically everything I would consider using. Just anything that gives more skill damage or dark attack damage. Also depends on what you're building him for. If you're building him for Slayer damage, then you may want to build a little bit differently. Like this World Break Globus accessory will be good for a special build because it increases dark attack damage, so that's all damage. But this Equilibrium Sphere, you might want to switch out for something that boosts special damage, or something like this. Scarlet Ring would be good for a special build. 2000 more special damage cap. Not the best, but since he's got double hits on his special, I think it'll be okay. So that's going to be my build for the moment. I'm going to be sticking with this because sword, these 2 accessories are very good. I think this is fine for now. All of these adding more physical damage, and I'm going to be focusing on his physical damage, but the Sword of Lost Souls for the moment does help with his special a little bit. So yeah, I'm going to be keeping this build for now, but this isn't the perfect build. This is a build I'm going to be using for the moment. For a full build, if you want him to be a physical DPS, I do recommend using probably a sword and some machine, so then you can benefit from machine boost, high boosts, those types of skills, which will increase his damage. So just think about, what you have available, because if you don't have good machine options or good spear options, then you may just want to go with 2 swords, and that'll be fine, but just make sure he's hitting enough damage and should be fine. Since he can use a sword and a machine, you can put on Sword of Lost Souls plus Trishula, which is a very good combination because that will allow his skills and special to ignore the resistance. So I liked using Trishula plus Sword of Lost Souls on Alice, I believe, when she came out, and that was like one of the best builds because her special was her main, that was the main focus of that unit, was her special damage. So using Sword of Lost Souls on her, and she was also a light unit, so she can benefit from Trishula because it was a light weapon. So then she could have Goddess Kiss, which I believe she already has or something, and get a lot of NP from having a light weapon from Trishula, so that was a very good combination. But you could do it with Levi if you really want to, because that could work as well. So yeah, you do have a lot of good options for Levi, so it should be easy enough to build for your equipment. His stats right now are looking okay. His strength's pretty solid. Let's awaken him like 2 times as much as we can, and then we'll start trying him out in a second. There we go, 2,700 strength. Not bad considering he's still level 100, has only base skills. I do have a couple skills learned on him already, so I can put on Honey Elixir, which I will do, just because I think that's just going to make this showcase a lot easier to show, you know. So, we're going to be using him with base skills only, and with Honey Elixir only, with this setup right now. So, let's see how this performs, because I'm quite interested in how he does. Because I haven't tested him at all in-game. I haven't even done the unit test play quest or anything, so this will be my first time trying him out. Let's use him. Which arc should I use? I'm thinking about it. I could just use the limited arc, honestly. That's fine. Just because I want to use it. Now we can go into the world map. So, a couple things I want to remind you of before we go into this is he has Boss Slayer. So, against the boss, he's going to be doing a lot more damage against the boss than the other enemies in this stage, because he's got the Boss Slayer. And he's probably going to be doing a lot more damage against the boss. But I'm assuming he should still do decent damage. I'm looking forward to it anyways. Let's try this. So I'm going to be using Honey Elixir to start it off, and then I can see his base skill stocks because I haven't seen that yet. And then we'll just go through each skill and see what his damage is looking like at the moment. And I do want to do his unit test play quest as well. So base skill stocks 433 is actually pretty good, because usually on a unit their skill 3 is their best skill, so 3 skill stocks off skill 3, pretty good. But the boss does have 50 dark resistance, which I just realised, so I may want to put on Trishula against this enemy. Let's go up against a normal enemy first, see what his damage is like. Not terrible. 47,000. So if you notice, he's not getting flinched, right? Because he's got his gas buff active. And as long as he has at least one gas buff here, then he's not going to be flinching from any physical attacks right now. While he's getting hit, he's going to be boosting his damage cap from his trait 2. Because trait 2 gives, you know, more dark damage cap when taking damage equal to 5% of max HP. So, that's nice. Yeah, he's not doing a whole lot to the boss because he has dark resistance, which isn't the best. But they're still dying. 70k. Let's put on Trishula just to make this better. Because then he should be doing some pretty good damage against the boss once he's got Trishula on. I'm a tiny bit worried about his base damage caps without any buffs, but I'm hoping it's fine. Not fully built yet though. Let's use Trishula. Yeah, this is fine. Actually, might as well do the build I said. Sword of Lost Souls, and I might try to use his special in a moment. Let's do this one more time, and then I want to go in and use his special and try that out, because it should be pretty decent, I think. Now I want to see what his damage is like against the boss, because now he has Trishula, and he has Boss Slayer, so he should be doing quite a lot against this boss, I should expect. It's hard to see the numbers, really. The boss is almost dead, yeah. Skill 3. I do like his skill 3. I'm pretty sure I saw 70,000 crit somewhere, which is fun. I think it's going to be decently fun to use. Reason being, because he can't flinch from physical attacks. He uses skill 3. So this skill 3 is kind of similar to his original form. It's like a spinny thing, which is fun. But it's not the fastest. Now I want to go in there and try his special out, and I do want to go into the unit test plate quest in a moment as well. So the best way to try this is probably make sure to put on Eldravana just to help a little bit. Doesn't matter who else is in there, just so I can use Great War of Ruin, and that's fine. So I just want to see his animation of a special and see how much damage it's doing here, because it should be pretty good, I think. So let's target the boss, because remember it's going to be an AoE attack, and then it's going to be a single target attack. So this should kill the boss, or if not, then it's going to do quite a lot because he's got 100 hits. This is still base skills, remember that. That's better than I was expecting. Okay. That's a lot of damage. Okay. That's pretty good. His special's pretty good. Now what I want to try is without Eldravana, is it still going to be hitting that hard? Because, wow. The special's pretty great. Especially if put on the special boost skills which increase... The special breakthrough skills which increase special damage cap. If you put those on him, I think those are going to be amazing. So let's just do him by himself, but only with Great War of Ruin, and see how that does. I just want to check what skills he does have for special, because I don't think he has many. I don't think I've taught everything yet. So what you can do to boost his special even higher: Special Breakthrough 1, Special Breakthrough 2, and even a Special Breakthrough 3 is available on the new limited arc. So you can increase his special damage cap by 10,000, which is a lot for a dual wield unit, because he's got 100 hits. So that's going to be a lot more damage cap. Actually, if I can just work that out. 100 hits, you're going to times that by 10,000 damage cap, which is adding 1 million damage to his special, which is pretty crazy. That is if you put on every single special breakthrough skill, if you have those. That's actually pretty cool. You know, I think he's going to be pretty great for his special, which is something I don't usually say, because I have been saying recently, or for a while, that I don't care about specials, but this event stage does focus on specials more. So let's try this. Again. Then use it again. So far, I am impressed with the special, honestly. See, it killed them all. Well, it should, but 100 hits. Yeah, he's pretty great. I do think he's going to be a fun unit to mess around with, trying to reach ridiculous, you know, special damage cap and stuff. But he is not the best special damage unit that we have, but he is still pretty solid, I would say. Now I want to go into the unit test play quest, because then I can mess around with him a bit more there. Because that's usually the best place to try him out. Might as well put the limited arc back on, because why not? Go into unit test play quest, which I haven't done yet. There we go. So this is with base skills, Sixth Enhance, with paid equipment, Equilibrium Sphere, Sniper Rifle. It's weird that they're using Sniper Rifle. Okay, so let's try this now. I'm interested to see how he performs at Sixth Enhance with all of his base skills only, and his paid sword, because I want to see what his damage cap is looking like now. Just with all of his base stuff and his special as well. So, let's use skill 1. 77,000. That's pretty great. His skill 1 is very spammable, so his skill 1 reminds me a lot of Shift Mikasa's skill 1. They're quite similar. Oh yeah, his damage cap is higher for the first 6 skills he uses because of his skill. It's on a boss wave too, so his base damage cap is 67,000, which is actually still pretty good considering he's dual wield. So this damage cap right now is pretty good, but it could be higher. We've also got to remember that he's got his paid sword on right now, which increases damage cap by 4,000 against this boss. So yeah, skill 1 I think is pretty solid. You can spam this pretty well like this, and it's pretty good. Now let's go to skill 2. I don't know how well you can spam this. I don't expect that well. It is kind of similar to original Levi's skill 2. It's not super fast, but it's not super slow either, you know? Like, if you just look at the hit numbers and when they show up, it's okay, but I do think his skill 1 is a lot better. But it's still solid. I mean, the middle hits are pretty fast. The boss is in break right now. Let's do skill 3. This one's probably the best one, maybe. I mean, yeah, it's down to special. I want to see what the damage cap is like on this. So this is Sixth Enhanced Special. 67,000. Right, that's the same damage cap as his physical skills. You can increase that damage cap by more. So you can increase it by 10,000 from every single special breakthrough skill. So that makes it 77,000. And then you can also increase it even further from arc skills and such. So you're probably looking at around close to 100,000 each hit, maybe, if you can reach that. But that's only if you have all the boosts available. Yeah, if there wasn't those delays, like at the end right there, once it reaches 32 hits, it's a bit of a, you know, pause, and I never really like those pauses. It could have just been a continuous skill, like, as you know, Claude's skill 3 is just instant, and same with 2P skill 3 is just instant and does all those hits there. So, for that reason, his DPS looks like it's going to be solid, but I'm not expecting anything game-breaking because the animations aren't the best. We have better animations, well, better units with better skill animations in the game at the moment, like 2P skill 3 is one of the best skills, and Shift Valve's skill 3 is one of the best skills as well, and Claude's skill 3 is one of the best as well. So we do have better units with better skills, but he doesn't seem that bad so far, and that is without taking advantage of the Vengeance debuff and stuff. So here is the balance though. I think he'll be fun to play casually, right? But if you're trying to get all of his conditional damage caps and damage, then it won't be fun, because you'll be focusing too hard on, you know, him dying and taking damage and stuff. So I think he will be fun still, but I just think some of his skills are still not fun, like his Vengeance debuff. I haven't used that this entire time, so he can reach higher potential by a lot more. He can definitely reach 100k damage cap easily enough, but it does require a hell of a lot of setup, and reaching these damage caps and stuff are just very difficult, so I still don't like the straight 2 and stuff, but his base damage cap, at least what I've seen at the moment with testing, it still seems pretty good. But you've also got to remember, I don't think he's going to be top tier DPS because his skills aren't super fast. Kind of reminds me of Shift Mikasa's because her skills aren't super amazing, but her damage cap's pretty high as well, so interesting. Anyways, so anything else that I want to test with Levi at the moment? Yeah, I might as well do a few more tests with him, because I do think he'll be fun to mess around with. So I'm going to do 2 more tests. One's going to be a maximum physical damage showcase thing, and then the other one's going to be focusing on his special. This one I was messing around with Lily at one point. Let's go over to a main physical damage team to boost his physical damage as much as possible. I'm going to be using this. I'm not going to be, you know, focusing on his Vengeance debuff and stuff, because that's just not really that viable. So I'm mostly going to be ignoring this trait too. I'm just going for pure damage like how I would usually do with other units. So I'm going to need a unit that has the Dark Charisma, which I believe is Thousa, right? Yeah, so I can use Thousa in the team for his Charisma, which will buff Levi's damage cap. And then the final unit can be Lelouch, yeah. And then that'll be fine. So this team should be great for damage cap potential, honestly. Let's use the Holy War Arc, and the final one can be Theopolis, I think, maybe. I think that's fine. So this team, Thousa's just going to use Charisma, and that's his only job. You're going to be doing Honey Elixir, and that's pretty much what I need to do, I think. Well, Theopolis as well. So I just want to see how this does. I'm going to be using Arc Skill for Levi and Theopolis. Arc Skill and Honey Elixir, and I'm pretty sure that's all I need to do. I just want to see how this does. It shouldn't be the best, but it should still be pretty solid. Make sure you use that. I'm going to use this. This gives a bunch of damage cap, which was 10,000. There's that. I don't want you to use skill, so you can just keep spamming that. Never mind. Okay, let's use Theopolis now. And then I'm going to be using a skill 3 and it should kill everyone, or something. What the number's going to be like, let's see... 70k, yeah. 93k, what's that from? I don't know, I'm confused, it's weird. Okay, sure. Obviously not the best showcase, but... something. I'm going to do it again, but without using Theopolis this time, just to make it easier to see. And then I want to try his special. Just go for all special damage cap and see how that goes. That should be fun. But remember, he isn't even fully built yet, so this is just base skills. Use Honey Elixir. This time I won't use Theopolis. Just going to be doing that, and then using skills on Levi to see how this does. So, focus on boss, I guess. I'm going to use a skill 1. It's hard to see still. Can't see numbers. Too much things going on. Let's go the rate. Yeah, that's against a non-boss enemy, but it seems like against the boss, he does a hell of a lot more, which I believe that's from his trait. 1 gives 20,000 damage cap more. Then he also got, yeah, that makes sense. More against boss monsters, yeah. 119, I don't know. That probably was Bowser, but I don't know if there's a chance it could have been. If he hits a crit, then there's a chance that he could do ridiculous damage because of that, but probably won't happen. Let's do it again. I want to see if I can try and see the numbers. I'm going to focus on the boss and use a skill 3 on the boss as soon as possible once I've got the stuff. Use that. There we go. Now skill 3 on the boss, see if I can actually see the numbers this time. Like 300, I saw 100 and something. So yeah, against the boss, he does 20k more damage cap because of his trait 1. I'm just remembering that. There was a crit there that did 100 and something, which was funny. That's great. Against the normal enemies, he's just doing 70k, which is still good. But this is still with base skills. I know the team buffs his damage cap and stuff a lot, but it's still base skills. In the unit test play quest, yeah, the lag is always going to be there. I can't do anything about that. It's the game, or it doesn't run very well. And especially dual wield units, it just happens. Sometimes I try and do it slow motion, but can't do it here. Now what I want to do next, I want to try his special. So for doing that, best way to do that is using Eldravana on him. Gives more special damage cap and special damage. And then in the team, I need to use, I'm trying to remember, because I don't usually do this. I don't do this often, at least. You're just skill and magic, so you won't be useful here. You're still going to be useful, I believe, because the charisma is special, yeah. So then the final unit can be, I think, I don't know if it matters, does it? Sarah, maybe. Fine. And I need this arc, which is the other Eldravana, because it gives even more special damage cap. Anything else for special damage cap? I don't think so. I think this is fine. I'm just going to go with this. I'm not going for maximum special potential, I'm just going for, you know, a solid team with a lot of special damage focused stuff, so I want to see how this does. It should be fine. No, it's not, because I need Great Wall of Ruin. I thought I forgot something. Now it's fine. Yeah. I'll target the boss and see how much damage we're doing. It should be a lot, but remember this is without all of the Sick Enhanced damage caps, which is 8,000 damage cap from Sick Enhance. And 10,000 if you include all of the special boost skills things. There's the charisma. Now we need to remember to use this. And now I'm going to target the boss and use the special. And this should be pretty solid, I think. I expect to see good numbers. Oh, okay. They're all dead already. Sure, why not? Against the boss, it's doing 92k crit, 82,000 normal hit. Okay, that's pretty good. So we can definitely reach 100k, because if you add the 8,000, that makes it 90k, and then you add the 10,000, that would make it obviously 100k. So yeah, it's definitely possible to make his special reach 100k damage cap, which will mean that against a single enemy, his special could probably do 10 million damage, which is actually pretty good. But remember that some of those hits, how many exactly? 52 of those hits are AoE. So against an AoE boss, if I do 52 times 100,000, for example, then that's 5.2 million damage against all enemies, and then the other damage is going to be against the single boss. So that's pretty good, obviously, but yeah, that's interesting to think about. If you boost his special damage cap by a lot, it can be pretty solid. But we do have other units still, like Nael's special, but her special can't really be used multiple times, but Levi can. That's the good thing. And Alice as well, if you still use her. Well, this form. There aren't too many if I'm thinking about it, honestly, but yeah. This is pretty solid. I'm going to be messing around with this more because it can be increased, and this increases his special damage more when you awaken him, so he's only awakened 2, but there was a lot of buffs. I'm going to leave that there for Levi testing. I think he seems pretty solid. The damage caps are a bit weird at the moment, but his damage seems good enough. But got to remember that he's got Boss Slayer, so I'm not really going to be talking about his PvP potential because I don't think he's a PvP unit at all. He just won't perform well on PvP, so I'm only thinking of him in PvE content because he's got a lot of PvE related skills and everything. So that's pretty much everything about Levi. Now there is still a few other things that I want to talk about. So now we've talked pretty much everything about Levi, I do want to do a bit more, talk a bit more about Mikasa, because I have been building her and messing around with her in PvP, and she is pretty solid. So I mostly want to talk about her PvP potential, because her in PvE, like, I'm not big on PvE much because there isn't much PvE content at the moment, but it's more interesting to test out a unit in PvP at the moment, at least for me. So I do want to try her out and talk about her performance, how she's been doing, because her ratings on the tier list have been released, I believe, and they are pretty solid. She's like 9.2 in PvP, which I helped with that, so because I've been testing her a lot. Yeah, Levi's definitely a PvE focused unit for sure. I wouldn't recommend trying him in Arena just because I don't think it's going to work. So I currently have this team. I was using this one because I've been messing around with teams, and this one's pretty good, but this one's going to be showcasing Mikasa. So I want to show you what build I've been running and how you kind of use her and everything. So she's got all of her 3 prisms which you get from the event for free, so this is a mostly free-to-play build, apart from I've got a paid accessory. So Godblade's Katsuchi sword is her best sword, probably. And then this sniper rifle, I'm just using it because it gives critical damage, and it's like the only good machine weapon that I have. And I do want to have a sword plus machine because she's got machine boost as well. She does benefit from stat boost a lot because, if you remember, she's got the Anchorman Bloodline buff, which is amazing. This makes her very good. because it gives 200% more HP and 100% more strength, defense, intelligence, mind stats, and won't flinch. So this is why she's very good. Without this buff, she wouldn't be performing very well in PvP at all. But with that buff, that's what makes her a very good PvP unit in my opinion. So let's look at what skills I'm running. This is mostly just a main damage dealer build, but I wouldn't really recommend that, but I'll say why in a minute. So you should be focusing on critical damage, I think, and fire and symbol just because I have a fire focused team at the moment. Physical weak point boost, don't really need this, but it does help against you know, Giles, and I'm using this because I have Shift Eliza in the team with her anima reducing enemies fire resistance by 20. That's why I'm using this at the moment. So Sky High is good. Surprise attack, backstab, and reverse cross. I'm using all of these because her skills do manage to hit the enemies, you know, back quite often. So if you're using a lot of her skills, which should be, mostly you're going to be using her skill 1 and skill 3 most of the time. Skill 2 isn't used that much. It's going to be like her last skill that's going to be used. Doesn't get used very much, but her skills are very good with backstab skills, so I do recommend using these. This will help her damage quite a bit, and this is why her damage can be somewhat decent, because stacking a bunch of crit up damage and surprise attack damage does allow her to have some high spike damage, and you can potentially do some very high damage, because having more critical damage and doing more damage behind enemies is just very good with this unit. Sword boosts, yeah, skill charge 1 of 3. I'm not really using skill charge 2, I don't even have it learnt yet, but I've just been using skill 1 of 3 most of all. Sharp Eyes, just more damage. Savage Strike, just need that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just focused on a pure damage build. I want to show you how this build is doing, but I don't think this is the most viable build. I do have like 2 other builds I want to show. I have been using her on my defense, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sparring myself, because I've got her on my own defense at the moment, so you can see how she's performing on attack and defense at the same time. So my defense build is different. It's more focused on hybrid tank / damage dealer. Let's see how a full damage dealer Mikasa does. I don't think this is the best build. I just want to show you how this is doing. She does do decent damage. She killed that Renner. Let's try and kill Claude if possible. She's going to get hit a couple times, which is expected, but she should get her buff in a moment. Oh my, she died. Alright, that was dumb. Okay, I'm going to lose terribly because my defense is actually pretty good. Okay. Yeah, her HP is pretty damn high. She managed to kill Claude there, which was great. Let's focus on Ren and try and kill her, so she doesn't use Blizzard. There we go, she's dead. Focus on Claude, use skill 1. I think 9S killed her. Okay. Oh, I'm dead for some reason. Okay, well, obviously I'm going to lose this one, but that's what I expect. I'm just messing around with trying her out here. So, she can work against Guile, right, but a full damage dealer build isn't going to work against Guile. I'll show you why. She still dies from a Guile, right, but that's because I don't have a build for that at the moment. She's just a main damage dealer. So let's go to the damage report. This will really show you how she performed. So on my attack team, she took a good amount of damage. She did some damage. Defense, same story. This isn't really the best showcase, if I'm honest, because usually she does more than this. Like, I've seen some times where she's done, like, taken, like, 200k damage or something, and done 200k damage at the same time. Let's do that again. I should probably adjust my build a little bit, because I don't think this is the best build. Like, using Braver, I don't think it's ideal. Yeah, Gilbert is very tanky. I've been using him a lot more recently. I think Awaken is good on her, because Awaken plus her, you know, buff from her trait 2 probably stacks very well. Yeah, remove Braver. I'm probably going to put on something else, like, I don't know. Something to make her take less damage, I think that's fine. And then the last one, just whatever, don't need that. Now let's try it again. Just because I want to show her a bit more. My current build. And then there is a different build. You could go for a full tank build, but I tried that and it worked, but to a certain extent. So let's actually try just killing Guile with her this time, right? So if I just focus on Guile and see how she does, if she can actually survive or do damage. Sometimes she can. So I'm just going to spamming skill 1. I think she's dying. Once Guile runs out of skill stocks, Mikasa can kill him, but not this time because my defense is too good. Yeah, this sucks. I just keep losing. That's my own defense. Yeah, if I go to a Guile and attack him, it's just a suicide at this point. Mikasa can only really survive a Guile once her buff from her trait 2 is active. Yeah, Blizzard, any kind of magic is the most, you know, that counters Mikasa quite well. Hey, Mikasa finished my team off, there you go. Yeah, so Levi could maybe be used in PvP, but I just don't recommend it because it's just not great. There we go. Mikasa on my defense, that's at least shows something. So Mikasa on defense did a lot of damage that time. 183k on my defense. On my attack team, she didn't do a whole lot because I was just dumb, but she did take a decent amount of damage too. So I think she can work well, but I don't think she's, you know, she's not a main damage dealer and she's not a main tank. So she falls under a role which is a bit, you know, iffy, but can work in some scenarios. So my attack team, this won't work. Reason being, her as a main damage dealer doesn't work because she doesn't really have enough damage to be a main damage dealer. Her role is going to be like what my defense has right now, which is a hybrid tank slash damage dealer. She isn't the main damage dealer in the team because I have Claude for the main damage dealer, but she can help with damage, and once Claude kills the main tank, Mikasa then can go and kill everyone else because she is immune to flinch from physical attacks. So that's kind of the main, you know, idea that I've had at the moment, is she won't be the main damage dealer, but she can help in the team and be a hybrid tank slash damage dealer. So I think she is a great unit, and you can see she does have some potential, but my attack team there was just terrible, so I don't recommend this attack team. But I want to mention one more thing, and that is her as a main tank. I don't know if Guile was missing, because Mikasa is close range, so Guile was doing his close range attack and probably just hitting her face. So Mikasa can only kill Guile once she has her trait 2 buff active, but not all the time. Let me talk to you about one more kind of build which I've tried, but it's not the best. So you could make her a proper tank and only a full tank, but I don't think it's the best tank in the game by any means, because her trait 2 buff lasts like 30 seconds. I know it gives a lot of HP, but once her buff is gone, she is not tanky at all. So if she's your main tank, then ideally you want the battle to be over once, you know. You don't want to lose the buff and then just die, because that's going to happen. So what I have tried is her with Rainical on, because Rainical gives a buff, you know, every time. It restores HP every time you get a buff. I could try the build right now, but it would take some time. I'm tempted. I'm probably going to. I might as well try it. It'll just take some time to build it. Don't really need Nael to be built, but I think she's already built. So if I were to do a main tank for Mikasa, you could do a high HP build, right? Every single HP up skill with the buffs skills for Renical. And it does work, but it isn't an insane tank at all. It can work, but she still dies, so that's why I don't think it's game breaking or anything, because she can still die and it's not super amazing. So I'm just going to be removing everything damage related because I don't need it. I'm just going to be going for high HP Renical build, I guess. That's not ideal, because I would build her more tanky than that, but just see how much damage she takes just from this alone, which will be funny. She doesn't have a law anything on, so I'm gonna die horribly, but it's fine. I just want to see how it goes, which will go terribly. So if you look, her HP is now 103,000. Wow, crazy, right? And her defense 6,400, but she does have a defense debuff right now. Strength's pretty crazy too. So this is great, right? And she's got a lot of health, a lot of defense, but this is not enough to make her the best tank in the game, because her Anchorman buff is limited time for like 30 seconds. So I want you to pay attention to her health right now and how much she's healing. So if you look, you can see she's healing for 9,999 from Renical, which is very funny. And as you can see, she's surviving. She's almost dead. It's kind of luck, but yeah, once she's got that buff, she's pretty tanky because of Renical healing for 9,999, which is very funny, and it can work. But once she's died, you can see she's not tanky anymore because she doesn't have her buff anymore. Let's just lose. Let's lose. I'm gonna leave it on auto just to lose, because I just want to see the damage report on this. I want to see how much damage she's taken and how much my defense has done. There's a chance I win, but never mind. Yeah, let's see the damage report this time. So my attack team Mikasa should have taken a bunch of damage, because she doesn't have a lot of damage mitigation, but what she can do is have a lot of health and heal a lot. There you go. This is what I've been talking about. Very funny. She took 400k damage, right? Which is hilarious. It's very funny, but it's not the best tank in the game by any means. It can work. You've seen it work, but once her buff is gone, she's not very tanky anymore, so I just don't really recommend it. But you can do something like this. Claude can still kill her, but if you have a healer plus Mikasa and Renical and stuff, then it's probably just incredibly tanky, but I still wouldn't really recommend it that much. Especially if you're in long battles for PvP, it's just not a good idea. Gilbert is definitely the better tank, for sure. But what I'm trying to say is Mikasa can work as a tank, and she can work as a damage dealer, but she doesn't do them both amazingly. Like, she doesn't do one, like, meta-defining, you know? But what she can do is she can do them both at the same time. So what I have on my defense right now is she is currently a hybrid damage dealer slash tank. So yes, she's got the, like, her paid accessory and a couple skills to help with taking less damage, but she does have damage as well, so like crit up skills and firing symbol, sky high, surprise attack, backstab, reverse cross, all those normal damage skills. But she has decoy. Honestly, she doesn't really have a lot for damage mitigation. I didn't add much for damage mitigation, but she doesn't need it because her kit is already enough damage mitigation, honestly. Because this trait too, not flinch from physical attacks. If someone is attacking her, if you have her on your defense and they're attacking her with a physical damage dealer, and she has this buff active, then she's going to not flinch, and she's going to be using her skills and doing some pretty good damage. So that's where I think she stands and what her role is. Her role is going to be, she's going to be a hybrid tank slash damage dealer. She can't be a main damage dealer, and she can't be a main tank. Well, she could, but it's not the best. She's not the best at them, but she can do both at the same time, which is what I would recommend and what I have her built at right now. So yeah, she's a very solid unit, and I like her quite a lot. She's pretty good in PvP, but not meta defining at all. She's very solid and pretty fun to use. I'm going to be sticking with my current team though. She doesn't really fit in my current team. I could put her in place of 9S, but I prefer this team. I think this team's great for a tag team. I've been using her on my defense just because she's been working well there, and I think she can catch some people off guard because she nullifies flinch from physical attacks once she has her buff active. So the only thing that she's vulnerable against is magic. If the enemy team's using magic, then she's still going to get flinched by it, and that is the big problem. So yeah, and she can't tank magic either. That's all I'm going to say about Mikasa. I think she is a great unit, and she is definitely going to be the PvP focused unit on this collab, from this collab, but she isn't super PvP, you know, not meta unit. You don't need her, but she can work. She is still pretty solid, and you will see some people running her, like she's on my defense right now, and she can do some good work if built correctly, but you got to make sure, you know, it's more difficult to build a team around her because she can't be a main tank, she can't be a main damage dealer, she has to be both at the same time, kind of. She has to do both, and it's hard, sometimes harder to make a team around that, but it can work. Like, I have Claude and Mikasa on the same team, which works pretty well. Claude is the main damage dealer, killing the tanks, and then Mikasa can not flinch from physical attacks and do a bunch of skills, and it's pretty good. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about Shiv Mikasa for now. I think I've talked about her enough and tried her out a little bit. She seems pretty good, and honestly I am surprised with her performance, and she's very fun for a PvP unit. I haven't really tried her in PvE content, but she is going to be pretty solid in PvE as well, but her main focus is PvP, but she works in both. Levi is different though. He only works in PvE. In PvP it won't be very good, I think. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. I really need a break very soon because I've been talking way too much for 2 hours. So this event has, yeah, this time trial. Here you go, you can change the difficulty up to 15. I do recommend doing that. I haven't been trying super hard yet because I only just started, so I haven't been going in with any perfect teams or anything, so I'm not spoiling anything or anything. This team is just the team I usually use for, you know, hard stages, like 2P, Sarah, Renner. I wouldn't recommend that. I don't talk too much about competitive gameplays, you know, but have some fun with this. I think this will be fun. I'm definitely going to be spending a lot of time on this. We have a week to do this, and you can check this to see the enemy information, so this will be fun. They didn't add anything else to this event, only that time trial stage. So yeah, there's nothing else here. In the trading space, I might as well get Levi's prism, because I definitely need that now. Nothing else here, so yeah. Pretty sure we finally talked about everything I wanted to. So, the conclusion part of the stream I'll do in a second is going to be a bit longer than usual, just because I want to make sure I cover everything about this collab as a whole, and also the rerun units and what you should be putting on everything, so I'll do that in a second. I just want to make sure there's nothing I'm missing at the moment. Yeah, some nice crystals from getting a unit to level 100, always like that. So yeah, I've done all my testing, I think, for now. I will be building Levi. I'm going to be spending the next week building him and focusing on the time trial ranked event because that's pretty fun. It's got one wave in each battle, and you're just up against... The first one is up against a bunch of soldier enemies. The last two are up against one boss, I think, so it'll be fun to mess around with that. Yeah, so that's everything, I think. So, my conclusion for this collab, well, for part 2 and this whole collab, gonna be a bit longer. So, what I want to talk about for now is, let's start with Levi. So, Levi is an interesting unit. He is quite confusing and he does have a lot of skills, and his trait 2, I don't really like it. Some of his skills and his trait 2 are just not that great because they're too conditional. Like his revengeance buff and stuff, his vengeance buff, I don't like it, and he's going to be losing out on a lot of potential from his trait 2 because you may not be boosting his damage cap from any of this, and some of his skills, like he needs to get revived, he needs to die and stuff like that. I don't like it, it's not very fun, and you also need allies to die. I would say just ignore that, and if you ignore the like very conditional skills and traits, then he's going to be a very fun unit to use because he's going to be nullifying physical attack flinch all the time, which is great as long as he has at least one gas buff, which he will start with 8 at the start of battle, so that's very good. I like that a lot. And his damage cap and DPS should be pretty solid. Nothing game breaking, but will at least rank decently high for a DPS unit. So he seems like he's going to be pretty good. It's just a lot of his kit I think are just not fun and too conditional, but ignore those parts, and I think he does have some other things which are very strong, like Boss Slayer on his skills and specials, and a lot of damage cap, and he's dual wields. I do think he is going to be great in PvE and definitely fun to use, but if you're trying to focus on his vengeance debuff and taking damage and all that stuff, he won't be very fun, so I just recommend not to worry about those. So that's what I think about Levi at the moment. This arc, I think it's worth, you know, a couple summons to try and get it, because there are a few good skills in here, like ODM Gear Mindset, the Wings of Freedom are very good, and even Special Breakthrough 3. You can use Special Breakthrough 3 on Levi and give him a 5,000 more damage cap, which would be, you know what, I should calculate that right now. So 5,000 more damage cap, and he's got 100 hits of his special. That adds 500k more damage technically, so that is very good. Well, that's against one target. Half that would be like 2.5 mil against all enemies. Well, 250k I should say. Stupid wording. So yeah, good arc. I think this banner may be worth doing a couple pulls on, or hope you get something from tickets, but comparing it to part 1 banner, I don't know, like none of these two are something that you must pull, but they are both good, so I would say it's up to you. I would probably recommend Mikasa, but if you like Levi, if you really like Levi, then pull him if you want, because he's still going to be a very good unit for PvE and do a lot against bosses. He's still going to be good. Even though he has a lot in his kit which isn't fun or not good, he's still going to perform very well for a DPS in PvE. But for an overall account, I don't know, that I think they're both good, but maybe part 1 is a bit better because Mikasa can be good more long term for PvP, and the arc also has a good arc keeper reward. The trait can be used, and Fire Enhance can be good long term for like Shift 9S if you got him. Sharp Blow, Morning Tides, they are both good arcs, so it's up to you. I would say check what your account has and what you kind of need and what you want, but I would probably recommend part 1 over part 2, but you don't really need either of them. If you want, if you don't have many crystals, you can just skip both. That's what I would probably recommend for most players, because Anniversary is coming up in a couple of weeks, and that's something to look forward to, and make sure you have some crystals saved for that, but they will be giving out a bunch of free stuff there as well. So that is the part 1 and part 2 banners. The Redux banner, there isn't really anything I should mention about this. You shouldn't be pulling on this at all. You should get your tickets from the login, use those 10 tickets, and hopefully you get something, and then you can use your guaranteed ticket to get the Resistors of Titan's arc, because that is the best arc from this banner, and you can get that for free because you've got a free select ticket when you log in. So use your tickets for the Redux ticket banner first, and then use your guaranteed ticket select ticket for that Titan's arc, the Resistors of Titan's arc, which will be better. So one thing I didn't mention before is the fact that this also has Faint Resist, which apparently Faint Resist isn't very common on arcs, so if you're missing Faint Resist, then yeah, definitely get this one for sure. This arc definitely worth getting, and it's free, so hopefully you get lucky, you can get one of those, or both arcs or something. That's pretty much everything for the banners. Nothing else I want to mention there. So I think this collab is not super exciting. Like, there's nothing meta game breaking or anything like with Guile or 2P. Those were game breaking units and stuff, but I still think this collab is very fun, and I like these units, even though they are 2 shift units. Like, it's not super exciting, but shift units in some collabs can be fun. Like the Near Automata collab had 2 shift units as well, but those 2 shift units were very interesting and quite exciting to me. So shift units can be fun a lot of the time. It doesn't matter that they're a shift, but I do like this collab. It's sad that it's only 2 weeks long, which means that this collab is very limited, so try not to worry too much about the fact that it's very limited, because some of this stuff you're probably not going to use, and it's not too bad if you miss it. You're better off saving if you're free to play, because there are better things to pull on. So, pretty sure that's everything I want to cover. Levi is a solid PvE unit, and Shift Mikasa is a solid PvP focused unit. So that is basically what I was expecting when I was going into this collab, because originally their original forms was kind of the same way. Mikasa was a PvP unit and Levi was a PvE unit. They kind of did it the same way this time. So yeah, I think I've done all my talking because I've been talking for way too long. I hope people enjoy this collab because I think it's pretty fun in my opinion. It's got a good event, it's got a good ranking event, the units are pretty fun to use, and they can be pretty solid if you use them in the right content. Mikasa, I'll be honest though, both of them are more difficult to build optimally than other units. If you want them to perform at their best, it is more difficult to make them reach that potential, but they are still solid units even without that. And if you are a new player and you get like Levi or Shift Mikasa, then that will boost your account quite a lot, because any of these limited things or new units are going to benefit your account if you're new. So I'm going to leave it there, and hopefully people get lucky. If you plan to use your tickets today, hopefully you get something from tickets. I didn't get anything from tickets, but I didn't need to use many crystals, which was great. I think I'll leave it there for now. The next stream or video is going to be next week, I think. Next week should be another DOH unit, I expect, or either a permanent unit, one of the two. I'm hoping it's a permanent unit because we haven't had one in so long. It's been many months. Last one we had was Shift Logia, and that was just a disappointment to me because I like Logia, but I didn't like his shift form and what they did with him, so I just skipped him. But he's probably going to be coming up in the normal permanent gacha very soon, I think. So yeah. That's everything I want to talk about for today. Definitely a lot I wanted to cover, but I'm glad I managed to cover everything that I wanted to. I will be adding the timestamps very soon, a bit later, but for now, it's 4 o'clock my time. I need to have a break, and then a bit later I will be adding timestamps, maybe after dinner or something, depending on the time. I'll see. But yeah, I'll be doing that. Hopefully you enjoy this collab, and I'll see you probably next week on Thursday. I expect that should be when the next unit is, and I might try and do some more videos because some people have been enjoying those, so I'm glad the videos have been, watched. I was considering doing a video on Shift Mikasa and explaining how to build her and everything, but I'm not sure about that yet. I did talk about her in this stream, so I don't know if that's necessary. But yeah, I'll see you in the next week. I'll have the timestamp soon. So yeah, bye.